Hello, and welcome to the webinar Essential Emotions, Balancing Emotion and Reshaping Belief with Aromatherapy. Thank you so much for joining me to learn more about how you can better manage your mood, change your beliefs, and ultimately manifest what you'd like to see in your life. My name is Tanya Neely, and I'm a wellness advocate and educator. I appreciate you taking the time to do something positive for yourself today, and I hope to bring some new insight to you through our time together. So tell me, have you ever been told you're too emotional? Perhaps you felt like you didn't understand why you were feeling a certain way. Maybe you've talked to yourself in negative ways or even sabotaged yourself. And perhaps you've wanted tools and ideas that provided a natural way you could manage your emotions, moods, and create a more positive space for yourself. Let me start with my intentions. I'd like to teach you the science behind emotions, belief, and aromatic molecules. I'd also like to explore with you how essential oils can help you manage your emotions, mood, and ultimately change your beliefs, and therefore your reality. And lastly, I'd like to give you some tools and ideas to maintain a healthy body chemistry and empower you to make the changes you'd like to see in your life. Ideally, I'd like to help you create a life that feels good on the inside, not one that just looks good on the outside. As I mentioned, my name is Tanya Neely, and I'm the founder of Essential Oils for Health and Home. I also blog over at neelythere.weebly.com. I hold a master's in education, and I've spent the past 10 years teaching in a Spanish immersion elementary position. I'm also yoga certified. Through this webinar, I am sharing the research, knowledge, and experience that I have gained. However, I am not a licensed healthcare professional. To that end, there are some things that you need to know. Essential oils do not treat, cure, or necessarily prevent a medical diagnosis. Any prescription protocol should not be modified without professional medical assistance. Emotional health concerns can arise for multiple and various reasons, some of which do require licensed medical health professionals. What we are going to touch on and explore today are those that do not. With any bottle of essential oil, please follow the indications for use. If it doesn't have supplement facts, it's not meant to be taken internally. And lastly, our bodies are all unique, just like essential oils. Not every oil is going to work the same with every body due to our body chemistry. With any suggested oils in this webinar, you might want to try 2 to 3 oils for a few weeks in order to observe the results. If need be, you can always change it and try something different. Many of the oils can have multiple beneficial effects for our bodies and our emotions. Before we get started, I want you to take a minute to do a little self-survey. We'll be exploring various aspects of our well-being, and I'd like you to check in with where you are at right now. You might want a pen and paper, or you might just want to keep this in your head as we go along. As I read the following statements, consider whether you can agree completely, partially, or not at all. Let's check in with your mind. I work on healthy thought patterns. I choose to believe good about myself and others. I nourish my brain with good fats and minerals. Let's check in with your heart. I trust my intuition and higher power. I freely give and receive love. I often feel peaceful inside, and I rest well. And finally, let's check in with your gut. I digest and process foods well. I nourish my digestive system with good nutrition and enzymes. My body is healthy and feels good. Does this small survey give you some food for thought? Let's begin now by learning a little bit about aromatic compounds. So what are essential oils? Basically, they're natural aromatic compounds. Now, these are volatile chemical compounds, which means that they evaporate or dissipate rather quickly. They can be found in all parts of plants, but not all plants actually produce essential oils. Some are found in the root, such as ginger. Some can be found in the rind, such as bergamot. Some are found from the resin of a tree, such as myrrh or frankincense. Others might be found in the petals, such as rose or jasmine, and some are found in the seeds or the leaves, such as cardamom or peppermint. Essential oils serve as a defense mechanism for plants, so they can help prevent or protect against environmental threats. They can also be beneficial to the plant and attract pollinators, for instance. Essential oils are very highly concentrated. Now, a great example of this is peppermint. As I said, peppermint is steam distilled from the leaves of the plant, and if you were to drink peppermint tea, you would have to drink 28 cups of peppermint tea to get the equivalent of 1 drop of peppermint essential oil. Okay. There are a couple of different ways that you can use essential oils. First being aromatically, and this could be diffusion, steam inhalation, or simply opening a bottle and breathing in. Some oils can be used to support the respiratory system by opening and maintaining clear airways. Aromatic use is also the quickest way to experience neurological change, since the aromatic compounds are absorbed in the mucous membranes and then directly communicate with the limbic system, which is involved in many of our emotions and motivations. Now, as I mentioned earlier, essential oils are aromatic chemical compounds. 95% of our body communicates via chemistry. By inhaling essential oils, we can, in essence, choose the types of messages we want to communicate to our brain. Let's look at topical use, and this would be application directly to the skin. Essential oils are readily absorbed through the skin in about 30 seconds and distributed via the bloodstream to all cells in the body quickly in about 3 to 5 minutes. You can apply them to the bottoms of the feet, which have large pores and less sensitive skin, to pulse points, or to any area of the body as needed and protocol requires. You do, however, want to avoid your eyes, ears, and nose. A reflexology map can also provide guidance for topical applications, specifically if you want to impact areas of the body, such as the brain, which is connected to the big toe, or perhaps other areas that you're looking for a direct connection. Lastly, internally. Now, you could add drops of essential oil to water or to drinks like smoothies. You could put some in your food. You could put a drop on or under your tongue. You could also add a few drops to a veggie capsule to take internally. Essential oils can provide small doses of daily detox, support our digestion and our gut health. And this is really important because 80% of our immune system resides in our gut or gastrointestinal tract. If we aren't taking care of our gut, we're not taking care of our overall physical health. And when we don't feel physically well, we often don't feel emotionally well either. Further, over 40% of the nutrients we eat, or perhaps don't, are absorbed and utilized by the brain. In essence, we are what we eat, and potentially we think, emote, and believe what we eat as well. Now, since we're looking at specifically emotion and belief, and a lot of this happens in the brain, let's look at the best applications for brain health. Most of these we've already talked about, so aromatic diffusion gets essential oils into your body, into your system really quickly. Pulse points are another great option. The base of the skull and spine, known as the occipital triangle, allows for very quick penetration into the brain and blood vessels along the spine as well. Bottoms of the feet, specifically the big toe, which affects your brain directly, and then also internal use. If you are considering purchasing essential oils to support any physical and or emotional well-being, there are a few things you should take into consideration. Due to the fact that the FDA does not regulate the production or sale of essential oils, the onus of responsibility falls upon us, the individual user, to ensure that we are purchasing the best quality product possible. You want to look for a company that globally sources their essential oils and are producing pure plant essential oils. You also want to make sure that they use rigorous third-party testing for quality and purity. You need to ensure that your essential oils are free from fillers, contaminants, pesticides, artificial ingredients, and for certain are not synthetics. There are a lot of synthetic essential oils on the market these days. In essence, you want to make sure that your oils are certified pure therapeutic grade, and I can share with you a little later the brands that I like to use. Now, let's take a look at how our bodies create and process emotions and beliefs. You are created to function as a whole and to feel whole. And this is very important to keep in mind because so often we can feel disconnected and receive external messages that our emotional, mental, and physical selves are compartmentalized. But this simply isn't true. When you nourish your body, mind, and spirit, that's when you create that overall feeling of wellness. Our bodies are made of intelligent cells wired to restore health physically, emotionally, and mentally. I invite you to consider how our bodies create fevers to restore health by first making an inhospitable environment for foreign bodies, thereby reestablishing the healthful environment we normally enjoy. As I mentioned earlier, our body communicates through chemistry. So we can change our minds, and therefore our hearts, by conscientiously feeding ourselves positive chemical messages. Let's take a closer look at what emotions actually are. Emotions are information-carrying molecules that bind to and react with cell receptors. and they tend to come from arousal of the central nervous system. Now, there are many different theories as to the sources of emotions, but generally, it's agreed that emotions have three parts: subjective feelings, a physiological or bodily response, and then an outward expressive behavior. So, for example, a situation occurs in your life. The body initiates an automatic physical response via chemical messages to the hypothalamus, which leads to that physical reaction. At the same time, chemical messages to the cortex, the thinking feeling part of the brain, start to analyze the physical changes and then labels them with an emotion. Now, this label depends on the current situation, of course, but part of it also depends upon our past experience and our association with the current event. Emotions can serve us in many, many ways. Physiologically, they aid in our survival. They provide that flight or fight response. They allow us to monitor our social behavior and regulate our interactions. We look for body language, facial expressions, we listen to tone of voice, and all of those things give us clues as to how we are managing a social situation. Emotions also color our lives and give them depth and differentiation. But remember, feelings are just visitors. You can let them come and you can let them go. And sometimes we really do need to let them go, because emotions can also do us a disservice in many ways. They can inhibit us from engaging in life or trying things that we'd really like to do. They can reinforce beliefs, whether true or untrue. And sometimes they can leave us feeling out of control of our own well being. But consider, the moment you change your perception is the moment you begin to rewrite the chemistry of your body. Now, let's talk a little bit about chemistry in your body and how our three brains interact and process emotion. Because really, it's all in the processing. Now, as I mentioned before, 80% of our immune system is in our gut. Our gut also produces serotonin, a neurotransmitter, which is a chemical that helps to relay signals from one area of the brain to another. Now, serotonin is manufactured in the brain, and that's where it provides its primary functions. But some 90% of our serotonin supply is actually found in the digestive tract. Of the approximately 40 million brain cells, most are influenced either directly or indirectly by serotonin. Now, this includes brain cells related to mood, sexual desire and function, appetite, sleep, memory and learning, temperature regulation, and some social behavior. When we talk about that gut feeling, this most likely comes from the serotonin communicating with our brain. Another important part of emotions is, of course, the heart, the seat of intuition, the place we most often feel like our feelings come from, and definitely the place we tend to associate them with. This makes perfect sense when you consider that there are more neural pathways that lead from the heart to the brain than vice versa. And lastly, the main computer, the seat of logic, intellect, and also automatic response. Now, we have two methods of response: conscious reaction and thought, and subconscious reaction and thought. Conscious reaction and thought are those actions and statements we know we are making, or perhaps we hear ourselves saying, such as, "Oh, I'm not sure I'm ready for that," or "This feels outside my comfort zone." Now, these are more easily dealt with and modified because we're actually aware of them. More difficult are the subconscious reactions, thoughts, and beliefs. These are often messages that are learned and embedded at an early age that we often no longer realize are influencing us. Some examples of the most common subconscious beliefs are: I'm afraid to fail, I don't deserve it, or I'm not worth it, no one will want me. Now, those are pretty powerful statements, and I hope you can see how these subconscious beliefs could have a huge impact on how you perceive the world and your place in it. Now, consider this. Daily life situations trigger emotions, and emotions often reinforce our beliefs, whether they are true or untrue. In addition, sometimes we seek out confirmation of our beliefs without even realizing it. And ultimately, our beliefs manifest in our lives. Did I just shake your foundation a little bit? Let's look at how these three brains work together. So we have a complex neural processing connection that allows them to communicate, feed back to, and ultimately influence the mind. And here's what that looks like in real life. This instinctive processing, and I'm sure we've all had a situation similar to this, right? So there's a life experience that happens, and you can see on the left there's a woman there. She's holding a baby who's crying. She's got a phone in her hand. She's trying to speak with someone or maybe arrange something, and then she's got the dog barking at her. And we've all had something similar like this. So there are multiple things going on at once, right? So what's happening in the processing? Her brain is saying, I have to figure this out. Her heart is saying, I am feeling so overwhelmed right now. And her gut is feeling, I'm stuck. Now, the outward reaction, whether physical or mental, could be head tension, right? An unsettled stomach, and conflicted feelings. And there's a huge disconnect between these three brains. And ultimately, this can serve to create a new belief or just reinforce a belief. And in this case, this one is, I'm not good enough. Now, is this necessarily true? Well, of course not. But our beliefs show up in our daily lives and they create our reality. So, how can you manage your emotions and ultimately change your beliefs? I'd like you to think of an iceberg. Okay, so as we saw, life situations trigger emotions, emotions reinforce beliefs. Beliefs are simply ideas that we repeat and consistently look to confirm. And I'm going to repeat that again. Beliefs are simply ideas that we repeat and consistently look to confirm. Some are true, some are not. And this iceberg is a perfect representation of the difference between conscious belief and subconscious belief. Now, as I said before, conscious beliefs are those that you can hear yourself saying or you are aware of, right? And that's like the 10% of the iceberg that's visible. But the subconscious beliefs, the 90% below the surface, those big impactful statements, those are the ones that really drive our reactions and ultimately create our reality. Remember, our brain is plastic, and that means that it can change, and you can ultimately rewire your brain and create some new pathways. So, it all starts with a heightened awareness of your emotional triggers and your habitual reactions. And basically, this is a habitual pathway that your brain consistently fires between neurons. Once you begin to have a heightened awareness of your emotions and of your habitual reactions, that's when you can start creating a gap between the emotion and the reaction. And when you start doing that, and the wider you can make that gap, you can begin to actually start cutting off that old pathway. And when you can start to cut off that old pathway by conscientiously choosing a different reaction, you begin to create new pathways in your brain. You allow that old pathway, that old scar to heal and ultimately disappear by conscientiously practicing and reinforcing a new pathway. And the more you reinforce it, the stronger it becomes. Once you have that new belief in place, what you will manifest in your life will completely change. So, what does aromatherapy have to do with all this, right? Well, smell is the fastest way to affect mood, since aromatic compounds have direct access to the limbic or emotional seat of the brain. And there's a science behind this. Essential oils tend to come from one of 6 families listed below. In each of these families, the main compounds differ, and they affect our brains and emotions differently. Mints tend to be higher in alcohol and ketones, and these can have both an energizing and calming effect on the brain and the body. Citrus are higher in monoterpenes. They tend to produce uplifting and revitalizing emotions and feelings. Spices are higher in ethers and esters, which have a renewing and intriguing impact. Herbs and grasses are higher in phenols, which provide comforting and soothing feelings and emotions. Trees and woods are higher in alcohols, which tend to be more grounding and balancing. And florals are highest in esters, and these tend to have more of a calming and reassuring effect. So, I'm going to give you some suggested oils to address emotions and mood, and then we'll focus on oils specifically to support brain health. Often we're looking for oils to uplift, and now this might be to combat feelings of depression or just feeling low, feeling blue, combating pessimism. Some great oils to uplift would be frankincense, citruses like bergamot, lemon, orange, grapefruit, lavender, rosemary, clary sage, geranium, jasmine, rose, ginger, and then I included some blends, encouraging blend, uplifting blend, and the inspiring blend. Now the link I have below is to an article on PubMed, which is a really great searchable resource for all kinds of studies on essential oils. This specific study focused on bergamot and its effect on reducing psychological stress and anxiety. And the conclusions showed how effective bergamot was as related to increased scores on profile of mood states, state trait anxiety inventories, and fatigue self checklists. Often we're looking for a way to calm ourselves, reassure ourselves, address stress. Maybe we're feeling anxious and we just need a way to release that. And so these are some oils you can use to calm, to reassure, to address stress. Frankincense again, citruses, lavender, rosemary, clary sage, vetiver, chamomile, basil, cedarwood, geranium, and then the renewing, comforting, or reassuring blends. The link I have here was done to examine the effects of aromatherapy on stress and stress responses in adolescents. And the sample included 36 female high school students, and the treatment was aroma essential oil inhalation versus a placebo effect. And what they found was that stress levels were significantly lower when the students received aroma treatment compared to the placebo effect. Okay. Stress responses were also significantly lower when they received the aroma treatment versus the placebo effect. Another study I recently came across specifically was about geranium, and it looked at the effectiveness of geranium during childbirth, and it found it can be very effective to reduce anxiety during labor and can be recommended as a non-invasive anti-anxiety aid during childbirth. Finally, let's look at oils to help aid attention, focus, memory, and learning. Some great ones are lavender, peppermint, citrus, clary sage, rosemary, marjoram, ylang ylang, juniper, sandalwood, frankincense, basil, and the inspiring or uplifting blends. The link I have below is to the Huffington Post, and this one was specifically looking at rosemary. The researchers exposed 20 people to different levels of rosemary oil aroma and then took blood samples to see how much of the 1,8-cineol compound each person had absorbed. Then the participants took speed and accuracy in mood tests to see if the rosemary oil had any effects. Now they found that the more 1,8-cineol in the bloodstream of the person, the better the person's performance on both speed and accuracy and on mood. Lastly, I'd like to touch on some oils to help support brain health. Now, you may have noticed that frankincense has showed up on all the other lists, and there's a good reason for that. Frankincense has a number of unique qualities that make it exceptionally potent in the treatment of specific types of brain damage. For instance, it has the capacity to increase the oxygenation of the blood going to the brain, which will in turn help with the absorption of oxygen. Frankincense has a molecular makeup that includes sesquiterpenes, and these are able to cross the blood-brain barrier and are particularly effective in the remediation of hard-to-heal brain injuries. These sesquiterpenes also stimulate the limbic system of the brain, promoting memory and releasing emotion. Frankincense has also been shown to slow down and deepen the breath, which is fantastic in those moments where you really want to create that gap between your emotion and your response and start to choose a different response. You could also look to lavender, helichrysum, arbor vitae, rose, basil, cilantro, myrrh, and then of course you need to nourish your brain with supplements or other items in your diet. Some examples of these are things like omega fatty acids, taking care of your gut, as I mentioned before, with good nutrients via digestive enzymes and probiotics, and then also consider small daily doses of detox to keep your gut and therefore your brain healthy. So my question to you now is, what do you want to weed out? What is no longer serving you in a positive way? Maybe it's negative thoughts or relationships, substances or self-limiting beliefs. Remember, awareness, especially of thought and reaction, both conscious and subconscious, is the first step to creating the gap that allows for mindful change. And what do you want to sow? What do you want to put in the place of the negative you're getting rid of? Can you picture it? Can you write it down somewhere? Can you add it to your diet so your gut is healthy and supporting your brain and your spirit? Can you treat yourself gently and with kindness? And lastly, how will you nourish your seed? What new habits, practices, or patterns can you begin? You fill a bucket drop by drop. You clear your mind, thought by thought. and you heal yourself moment by moment. Okay, so we're at that point now where I hope that you have gotten some food for thought and some value from this class. And I'd like to share with you 2 ways that you can go about bringing some of these essential oils into your home. Okay? So the first, if you think you're ready to just dip your toe in and you'd like to try some free samples and get some more information, please complete the contact form at the bottom of the page. You can select up to 3 essential oil samples that I will send off in the mail to you to try out. If you feel like you're just ready to jump in, if you're ready to get oily, follow the Let's Get Started link at the bottom of the page and you can learn how to set up your own wholesale account. I don't care how you get started. I just want you to get started. Like I said, I want to help you create a life that feels good on the inside, not just looks good on the outside. So, if you decide to go ahead with that wholesale account, these are some things that I will commit to you and some offers I have to share. Once that wholesale account is set up and ready to go, I will contact you to help you get started using your oils, to give you some guidance, help you identify your goals and pair them with specific oils or other products. I'll also help you learn how to manage your future orders. You'll be added to my Facebook groups for continued education, training, and support, and you'll always receive invitations to classes to help you learn more and get comfortable with your oils. I am accessible for any questions and mentoring. And now some great offers. If you choose to enroll with a wholesale membership now through February 28th, you'll receive a free Modern Essentials app for iPhone or Android, some roller bottles to help you get started, and a surprise mini roller of one of the emotional aromatherapy blends. In addition, depending on your order, you can receive up to 100 free product credits now through February 28th. Again, let me help you get oils into your home, whether it's a sample or your own wholesale account. You can contact me directly at 612-267-6201, at my email tanyaneelydt@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Essential Oils for Health and Home or at my blog www.neelythere.weebly.com. Here's to your health.